All right, folks. So we're going to kind of review the last lesson for a second. All right, so let's say we have 10 to the third divided by 10 to the fifth. What rule are we going to use? There you go. Well, since we're dividing two powers here, what we're going to do is we're going to use the quotient rule, which is the same as saying 10 to the 3 minus 5. Now, here's the deal. What is 3 minus 5? That's right. It's 10. Well, it's negative 2. Okay? So this gets us 10 to the negative second power. Okay? And this is where we're going to have to use something called the negative power rule. Negative power rule. All right, awesome. So this is my favorite rule, as you might have guessed. Okay, so if we have, let's say, 10 to the negative second power, a negative exponent is what's called an inverse. All right, which you might remember inverse is from, let's say, you have 1/2. The inverse of 1/2 is 2 over 1. The inverse of 3/4 is 4/3. So what you do when you have an inverse is you flip the fraction. Okay, you just kind of flip it over. All right, and that gets you the inverse. So since this is a whole number and not a fraction, we can pretty much put 10 to the negative second over 1, right? The inverse of this would be 1 over 10 to the second. Okay? So what we've done here is we've taken the inverse, we've inverted our fraction, and that makes our exponent positive. All right? So if you want to think about it this way, okay, I love this. I have a colleague, Mrs. Olson, and she's a champ. And this is what she always says. And she's a mother of, she's had kids. So when she was raising her children, if any of them had a negative attitude, she'd send them downstairs till they got a good attitude. All right? So what you're essentially doing is you're just moving this whole thing right here downstairs to the basement where they can sit and hang out until they get a good attitude. Okay? That makes it positive. Right? And it works the same. Well, if we work this backwards, if let's say we had 1 over 10 to the negative second power. Okay? The inverse of that, or when we use the negative power rule, maybe we'll just send that bad boy upstairs where he'll become, or she will become more positive. All right? So you're still inverting it. And when you invert that fraction, or you take the inverse of that fraction, it makes the exponent positive. So 10 to the negative second becomes 1 over 10 to the positive second. 1 over 10 to the negative second becomes 10 to the second over 1. We're pretty much just 10 to the second. Okay, we don't really need to put that over 1. All right, so let's try a few of these out. Okay, so like we learned up here, sometimes we'll have to use this negative power rule after using a different rule. All right, so let's say, for example, here we have 10 to the third over 10 to the negative fifth. All right, so there's two things we can do here. We can either use the quotient rule because we are dividing two powers with the same base, or we can just use the negative power rule right here. Now, this 5 has a negative attitude, right? So we've got to move him or her upstairs. We'll get 10 to the third times 10 to the positive fifth. Now, 5 became positive now because it's now upstairs. And then here we can just use the product rule, and 3 plus 5 is equal to 8. So our answer is 10 to the 8th power. Okay? So we can use the negative power rule first. We could have also used the quotient rule first. Now if we use the quotient rule first, okay, we get 10 to the 3 minus negative 5. Which, as you may know, if we subtract a negative number, it's the same as just adding the positive of that number. So this is still going to get us 10 to the positive 8th power. All right? And there you have it, folks. That is the negative power rule. The best rule ever. All right. Now, make sure you're doing your stuff in the workbook as well. And have a good rest of your day.